Game day's here, I can hear the crowd. Turn on the lights, fans are cranked up and loud. Red or blue, we wear it proud. Yeah, we love our teams in this border town. Chiefs and Royals, Boo Mizzou, Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, KU. Hear that drum pounding in your feet. Yeah, you're marching to the beat of KC.
What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? What is going on, Jayhawk Nation? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the beat of KC. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lucas Murphy, and it took me an entire day to really kind of accept, really kind of absorb what had happened in that West Virginia game against the Kansas Jayhawks. It really took me time to kind of just accept the fact that this Kansas Jayhawks team failed. They crumbled in the second half. But when you really start to dissect, you really start to look at the box score, you can truly understand why this team really kind of lost control. Now, in the pregame, I was completely wrong. I was dead wrong when it came to who was going to contribute in this game, how they were going to contribute, and that is just kind of the way it turns out, ladies and gentlemen. You can predict things, and it just goes the complete opposite. And I think, if I'm going to be honest, I think our team was outcoached. I think our team was outmotivated, and I think West Virginia's fan base really had their team playing at an all-time high in a stadium in Morgantown that is typically pretty a difficult, road test for the Kansas Jayhawks. The Kansas Jayhawks went on the road to Morgantown, as we just discussed, and suffered an 86-75 loss at West Virginia. And I think one of the biggest things is that this Jayhawks team fell to 1-2 in the Big 12 play. But ladies and gentlemen, they could easily be 0-3. Now, I think there are some key things to really discuss in this matchup before we get to what I would consider a gauntlet team in Iowa State. We'll provide that preview here. But the Kansas Jayhawks would lead at halftime. It felt good going into halftime with a lead. And that was in support because of Darren Peterson hitting a buzzer beater. And so it felt like Kansas would come out really kind of having momentum. And that's exactly what happened. They came out in the second half. They stretched their lead to 59-51. And that was really kind of extended because of Trey White. But ladies and gentlemen, this Kansas Jayhawks team often finds a groove of ice cold 0 points. They have absolutely no way of scoring. There are stretches in basketball games where they just cannot figure out how to put that circular orange basketball into the hoop. They struggle to do that. There are game in, game out where we go on massive stretches. In this game, I think really what I'm seeing was 16-0, but I think it could have been more than that. It happened against TCU. This team goes on absolute ice cold streaks. Whether that is connectivity between the players when Bill Self decides to put subs in, the cohesion that is maybe lacking in some areas, or maybe because the team is not having post players because they get into foul trouble. But whatever it may be, we go on these absolute massive runs of negativity, and that's where the other team really builds momentum. The West Virginia Mountaineers, ladies and gentlemen, they like to play slow. They like to play methodical. They like to really work down the shot clock. And that's exactly what we saw. When Kansas could not make shots, West Virginia capitalized on what seemed like every one of those missed shots. They would work the clock down. They would, run their offense, and they would score. They worked through their bigs because guess what? Our bigs were on the bench because they were in foul trouble. So we had to go smaller. We had to run guard heavy. At one point, we had to, put in Paul Mbaya because we just did not have bigs down low because their bigs were working and really driving down on our guards and just scoring at will. And so, statistically, when you really start to look at this box score, it just really kind of gives you the full picture. West Virginia outshot Kansas 48-43%. And really their ability to hit timely shots and convert in transition proved decisive. I think if I'm going to be even more critical, the Kansas Jayhawks looked lazy. And again, they looked outcoached. They could not guard on the perimeter. Our defense on the perimeter was abysmal. We could not really shift. We could not transition well. Guys would be wide open with nobody in their face, and they would just make shots. And we struggled night in and night out in this game because of that. Aaron Peterson played again another extraordinary game. He matched West Virginia's Honor Huff, and, Honor Huff had 23 points. Darren Peterson finished with 23 points. The good thing is Darren Peterson also added 6 rebounds. Now, Trey White continues to be Trey White, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thoroughly impressed with Trey White's contribution. He continuously scores points. He's continuously shooting good from the three-point arc. He's rebounding the basketball. He is giving everything he's got when it comes to really contributing to a win. Darren Peterson, you can say the exact same. Melvin Council Jr. was a tick below his points per average this season. He only scored 11 points. He added 4 assists and 4 rebounds, but I'm still pretty happy with what Melvin Council provided you, although he probably had a little nerves because he had a lot of family and friends. He's from the Northeast, and so they came in to watch, him play in a Kansas uniform, so I'm sure he had a little bit of pressure. There were times where he would drive and probably put up 4 shots because he was trying to impress, but outside of that, I can't be critical of Melvin Council. Now, if you're going to ask me who can I be critical about, it is our bigs. And if I could come up with every adjective that describes just awful, it would be in order to describe what Flory Badunga and Bryson Tiller have been doing, and I would say in a stretch of period of time, especially in this season. Flory has completely gone in the opposite direction. Outside of the TCU game, he's really been non-existent when it comes to areas. He looks slower. He does not look to be transitioning very well on defense. He's getting exposed. Bryson Tiller is a hack machine. He had 4 fouls and had to leave the game and really did not contribute whatsoever in the West Virginia game because he could not stop fouling. And Flory obviously had 3 fouls as well. The West Virginia Mountaineers took advantage of those two not having any success whatsoever. And I think if they would have been able to have a little bit of success, which I talked about in the pregame, I think this game would have went completely different. But then you had their bigs who really don't contribute a ton. They have a really solid forward. But outside of that, they don't have a ton of bigs that are just solid foundational pieces. Well, when your bigs go out because they can't keep their hands off of somebody else, that's what happens. And I think the biggest thing, too, is we were out-rebounded. That's always a category we look at. We were out-rebounded 38-32, embarrassing. And so I really think that this Kansas Jayhawks bigs really need to be evaluated. They really need to be just figure out what is going on with them, why they can't figure it out, how to play together, how they can't figure out how to not foul at an absolutely astronomically high rate. It is an absolute atrocious showing from those two as of late. And I think when you really want to dissect it further, our bench has been abysmal as well. I think Jamari McDowell gets ready to come in, and I'm usually very positive, and I enjoy Jamari McDowell's game, but from my understanding, he went to check in to come into the game, took his warm-up off, and didn't even have his jersey on. When I played college baseball, if you did something like that, you're on the bench, buddy. And I think that's exactly how Bill Self treated it because Elmarco Jackson ended up getting a ton of minutes. But ladies and gentlemen, Elmarco Jackson is a walking turnover. And I hate to be that critical, but Elmarco Jackson makes a ton of critical mistakes. There are flashes where he shines and you're like, that's why he's on this Kansas Jayhawks basketball program. But then there's a lot of times where he just makes a ton of mental mistakes. And you're like, why are you even on the floor? Now, if we're looking at this from a very positive standpoint, the Kansas Jayhawks did drive the basketball. They did get to the free throw line and they shot 83%. But then we're going to flip the switch and go right back to being critical because our three-point shooting was absolutely garbage. It was 29.6%. They only shot a lucky 8 of 27, which is just awful. Opposing West Virginia shot around 43%, I believe. Just a huge swing in three-point shooting. West Virginia is truly not really known for. In a market that never sleeps, one name rises above the rest. Lisa Miller from Dan Lynch Real Estate. Trusted by hundreds and recognized across the Midwest. She delivers results when it matters the most. With over 13 years of experience, and licenses in both Kansas and Missouri, Lisa isn't just selling houses. She's helping you find a place to call home. Whether you are a first-time home buyer, looking to upsize, or selling your current home, Lisa makes the process smooth and stress-free. As a local expert passionate about building lasting relationships, she ensures her clients feel confident and satisfied every step of the way. Don't wait, your perfect home is just a call away. Contact Lisa today at 913-579-3246 or 913-369-3000 or visit lisamillersellskc.com. But Lisa Miller at Lynch Real Estate helped you start your next exciting chapter. And let her know the beat of KC, Lucas Murphy, sent you her way. Now, why we're being so critical is because you have the number 3 team in the country coming into your house, Allen Fieldhouse, and that'll be on Tuesday, January 13th at our typical 8 p.m. Central Standard Time in one of the most pivotal Big 12 matchups. And it's crazy we're already saying that this early into Big 12 play, and that's because your Kansas Jayhawks are 1-2. They were potentially 0-3, and they could potentially be 1-3 because of this team that is coming in. Iowa State, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a force. They enter this game as the nation's top team, in my opinion. They're ranked number 3. Oh, did I say that the number 1 team is also a Big 12 team in Arizona? Iowa State is undefeated in Big 12 play. They've made a program historical statement going 15-0 in the start, and they are a complete team on both ends of the floor. They play extremely high-level defense, ladies and gentlemen, and I believe that's from their head coach, TJ Otzelberger, who really instills good defense, really instills playing tight, tough defense. They're often ranked near the top in the nation when you're talking about defensive statistics and efficiency. It's a hallmark of their style, and really what they look for is intense on-ball pressure. They really play good help defense. They force turnovers, which as of late, the Kansas Jayhawks they turn the ball over, They're led by senior guard Tamin Lipsey, who's averaging 14 points a game, and he is recognized as one of the best point of attack defenders in the country, setting the tone for their backcourt defense. I think when you really start to look at how efficient this team is, how balanced their offense is, it's beyond the defense. The Cyclones are an efficient scoring team. They've ranked highly nationally in offensive efficiency, showing the ability to score in really multiple layers from the perimeter and inside, and benefit from both balanced scoring from players like we talked about in Tam and Lipsey. But really a guy to pay attention to is Joshua Jefferson. I almost said Justin Jefferson. I was thinking the Minnesota Vikings, but Joshua Jefferson, who's their 17.7 points per game. He is their points leader on the team. And really, there's a ton of other complementary scorers. I believe they have 4 to 5 guys that are averaging double-digit points. This team is going to be an absolute wrecking force. Iowa State's defense translates to offense by turning defensive stops into transition opportunities. Their ability to force turnovers, and I really want to highlight that because the Kansas Jayhawks, ladies and gentlemen, have struggled to not turn over the basketball. And one of the things Iowa State, the Cyclones do, is they push the pace. They can create momentum and they can extend leads at a very quick rate. And they have quick scoring spurts. As we can see, ladies and gentlemen, the Kansas Jayhawks, they go on one of those ice-cold droughts. And if you give a team like Iowa State the ability to go on a 12-0, 16-0, 18-0 type of run, this game will be over before you know it. And it doesn't matter what type of defense you play. If Kansas Jayhawks allow for that to happen again and again and again, they will continue to lose Big 12 games because the teams you're going to start playing, specifically Iowa State, you have Texas Tech still, you have BYU, you still have Arizona, you have all of these top-tier programs that continue to push the pace, that go on massive runs. If you can't match them, match for match, and you go on these abysmal runs of just being ice cold, you're going to continue to lose games. It doesn't matter if you're at Allen Fieldhouse. It doesn't matter where you're at. You're going to lose the basketball game. So really the matchup challenges for Kansas. Facing Iowa State presents several tactical challenges for this Kansas program. The defensive intensity that Iowa State's pressure defense can disrupt Kansas's offensive rhythm, which I don't like hearing that, ladies and gentlemen, especially if KU continues to rely heavily on individual scoring instead of ball movement, balanced scoring unlike West Virginia's scoring burst from a few players. Iowa State spreads the offensive load, making it harder to focus on defensive attention to only one threat. They're going to be able to score across the board. The tempo and the control is a completely different structure than how West Virginia plays. Iowa State often dictates the pace. They control the half court. They're converting defense into offense, which they could truly test Kansas's stamina and execution, especially after going to overtime against TCU. And then they turn around and played a pretty tough game on the road in Morgantown. This could be a challenge. Now, I think what Kansas needs to focus on limit turnovers. That is going to be one of the most important things. Protecting the ball against an aggressive Cyclones defense is one of the most crucial things, I think, in this game. Improve shot efficiency. Kansas struggled to keep their shooting consistent versus West Virginia. Yeah, because we go on ice-cold runs. More effective shooting across the roster will keep them competitive. Control the glass. Have some form of contribution from your bigs outside of fouling, outside of being hack-a-shack. Absolutely contribute in some form or fashion, whether that's points, rebounds. We need bigs to be effective in this game. Winning the rebound battle can limit second chance points because Kansas has yet again struggled, not necessarily on the second chance points, it's the second chance opportunities. So allowing Iowa State to get second chances, that will be detrimental. Now, I think after a disappointing performance in Morgantown, Kansas will look to defend its home court against a juggernaut coming in of Iowa State. The squad that excels on both ends of the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, they don't excel at just one side. They are elite at both sides. With Allen Fieldhouse behind them, this game really is a true litmus test for the Jayhawks. And I think you're truly going to see really what their Big 12 aspirations are after this game. And a chance to regain momentum in conference play if they come out victorious. But I think they will be cellar dwellers if they decide to lose this game because the road does not get any smoother. The hill does not get any flatter. It is only going to continue to get more difficult as you start to get into more higher-ranked teams, more well-balanced teams in the Big 12. We started out pretty slow and do not have a record to show that. I appreciate y'all checking out this video. I'm nervous for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to be 100% honest with you. I am nervous. I completely understand how Iowa State plays. I've watched them a few times. Iowa State is going to be a test. I appreciate y'all checking out this video. I appreciate all the support you've given me. Make sure you guys smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and I end every video the exact same way. Have a good day.